So happy Saturday, everyone. This is Greg Dixon with the Note Show, and I have Larry Hoffman today, and we're going to talk about investing in note partials, partial note investing. And Larry's going to explain what that is and why you might want to consider it.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. Do you want me to go ahead and just start the PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah. Okay, I'll just put it on the screen here.
Awesome. Well, hey, Greg, thanks again. Really appreciate you asking me to do this. So this was something that I presented about a couple weeks ago on a webinar that I did. I do these monthly webinars the first Monday of each month, and I thought the partials. I dubbed it the power of partials just because I just recently purchased two partials within my self-directed IRA, and typically I would say 98% of my business is just a full purchase of notes. Working with asset managers, other note investors, banks. That I typically source my deals from. But this was from there's three deals, two deals you'll see. The one deal I'm still kind of currently working on, and this was just from like a seller financing, some of the marketing that I've been doing on Facebook and also on LinkedIn. And so they just kind of reached out. And so this kind of started the PowerPoint or a PowerPoint presentation that I created. It's called the power of partials. So just to kind of, my attorney wanted me to put this disclaimer up there that, I am not a financial planner. I am not a CPA. Really, this is just for educational purposes only. Your mileage may vary. This is just what I'm doing in my business. So I would just suggest that you talk with a CPA or a financial planner before doing anything, any type of investment, because investing is risky. And I always tell people, don't invest with money that you're not prepared to lose. And so once again, this is just me, Larry Hoffman. I'm the managing member of LJH Investments. I began investing in 2006. I started out rehabbing homes. I was buying between 5 to 8 houses a month, rehabbing these houses. I would buy them, fix them, seller finance them. I've created, and that was the funny thing about it. With the notes, I would create these seller finance notes without really fully understanding like the power of seller finance notes. So, I've owned a 25 unit building up to a 50 unit building. I graduated from the University of Cincinnati with a bachelor's of science in electrical engineering, and I'm a husband and proud father of 4 children. I serve mass at the cathedral downtown, and I'm an avid runner. And if you follow me on LinkedIn or Facebook, you'll see that I'm always posting something about, like dropping that deposit into the fitness bank and, running a quick 4 to 6 miles each morning. So, and I'm really into fitness, and I encourage, people, if you can, just really get into doing it, because it dramatically just improves your overall state of mind and also your health. So what I'm going to talk about with this power of partials, the agenda, and unfortunately, I had these slides. It's animation, so they would just slide across, but it's not doing that. So I'm going to talk about, what is note investing, the 3 types of cash flow, 2 ways to purchase a note, what is a partial types, the different types of partials, talk about the deals that, that I did and that I'm still trying to do, and the docs needed that you actually need in order to do a partial, and then what happens if things go sideways, because they do. And not on this partial, but I have 2 notes that I purchased within my self-directed, one out of my self-directed IRA, and then one within my self-directed IRA that it did go sideways. And unfortunately, I am going to have to foreclose on the borrowers. And it absolutely kills me having to do this. I just, that the old saying, it's nothing personal, it's business. I take it personal because, it's a family, it's a person that I have to do this. And it just, like I said, it absolutely kills me. And I try anything and everything to always try to work it out with them. But unfortunately, you have people that just bury their heads in the sand. So just kind of like, what is a note, just a level playing field. I don't know the experience of people that are on this webinar or on this live stream. So typically, it's just when you buy a note, you're buying it with the mortgage, and you do not own the property. So what I have this couple. They go out and they want to buy a loan or they want to get a home, and then you typically work with typically like an agent. You look at a home, and then they'll ask you to go get qualified for a mortgage. And so you'll get a mortgage and a loan promissory note on the property, and the mortgage is the instrument that secures the promissory note. So if you have to foreclose, that's what you foreclose on the mortgage, so that way you get that that property back. And the promissory note is just the IOU that just says you owe $53,000 amortized over 30 years, and your payments are going to be X for X amount of interest, right? So typically what happens is the family would go out and get this loan. In this case, I'm having them make it to a servicing company, and then the servicing company, before you see my logo up here, this was a bank, an image of the bank that was before, and then when I clicked it, my image would slide over. So they're making the payments to the servicing company. The servicing company makes that payment, the difference, to the bank. And so what us note investors do is we come in and we buy that debt. So they're no longer making that payment to the bank. They're making it to me. I'm the new bank, right? So, they will typically, if you're using a third party servicing company, and if you keep it at the third party servicing company, they won't even see a hiccup at all. That you'll get a hello and goodbye letter from the new bank, telling them that your note has been sold, and this is a company that's going to be servicing, that's the new owner of your note. But to the borrower, the payments still come, they still send it to that third party, and the third party now is sending, instead of sending it to the bank, they're sending it to me. And so the three types of cash flow, we have a series of payments. It's really nothing more than an amortized loan with even payments. It's really the most common. You have a lump sum payment, money received at some point in the future. In other words, it's a balloon, or if you're old school, it's called a call. Depending how old you are, I've heard it. I've always referred to it as a call, and very rarely do I recall refer to it as a balloon. And the last one is a combination of both. It's a combination of two. The interest only, in other words, an interest only loan, 5 years with a balloon at the end of 5 years. It's pretty simple. Let's see here. And there are two different ways that you can actually buy a note. One, you can do a full purchase, and the other is a partial. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today, is the partial. But with the full payment, you're actually buying all of the payments. So, if you have a loan that had, like in this particular case, 360 months, and it's just newly originated, you're buying that 360 months worth of payments at a discount at your yield that you're trying to get it. And then the second way is to actually buy a partial. So what you're doing is you're buying a portion of the payments for a specific period of time, and then after that specific period of time elapses, it's assigned back to the seller. And that's where, later in this conversation, that's where you're going to have these documents to where it's a full assignment of, if it's a mortgage, an assignment of mortgage, and an allonge, where you're going to have, it's going to be, when you buy it, you'll assign it to your company, and then when you sell it, it'll sign back over to the seller. I'm telling you, the partials, this was something that, like I was saying early on, I think it's like 98% of my business is just full purchase. And lately, I've just really been doing a lot of partials, just because of the advertisement that I've been doing on LinkedIn and Facebook. I've been having a lot of seller finance notes reach out to me. And as you'll see on my deals, the offers that I made a full price offer, and then I made a partial. And like I said, with the full price offer, oftentimes it's at a substantial discount, because depending on where they originated that interest rate at, if they created some loan at 4%, and you're looking to get a 12% yield, you have to severely discount that note. Where with the partials, You don't. You just try to, and this is what I'm always trying to figure out. More specifically with the seller financing, I'm always trying to figure out the why, their itch that they need to be that they need scratched on why they need that money. Because if they only need $20,000, they don't need to sell that entire amount. They can just sell $20,000, say for the next 5 years, reverts back to them, and then they can have the rest of that cash flow. And then if something else comes up where they need to bail Johnny out of jail, and they need another $15,000, then they can sell that as well. I'm just telling you guys, if you're not using partials, you definitely need to be at least look into it where you can, and start incorporating it. And like I was saying initially, a lot of my business is from asset managers, bankers, and other note investors. Well, they typically have a fund that they need to sell these notes, so they need to liquidate, so they just need to be cashed out. And on the partials, I've just been really doing a lot of these partials with seller finance notes. And so, and like I said, what is a note partial? You're just buying a portion of the payments for a specific time period. Then, like I said before, it reverts back to the seller after. In this particular case, I'm buying 120 payments, and then on the 121st payment, it reverts back to the seller of the note, and then they'll have the remaining payments, and then they can just sell off, like I was saying, another 5 years, another 10 years, or just totally sell off the totally remainder of those payments and just totally be cashed out and just be done with it. And some of the advantages for the investor, it requires less money. It spreads out your risk. You have higher returns. And what I love with the partials, you have a lower investment to value. So, you know, I try to always, especially when I'm doing the full purchase, I love to be anywhere between 75 to about 80% loan to value, investment to value. So when I can't get that, and if I can figure out their need, if they need $20,000, then I can come in, and then that will severely increase my investment to value. I just absolutely love these partials. And some of the seller advantages, it's immediate cash flow. You can customize the cash flow for them. And that's where I'll show you talk about with some of the other partial types. You can just take a portion of the payment where you just totally split that with the seller and you. It's amazing. I just absolutely love this. You can collect the remaining cash flow in the future, and you have the flexibility to sell another part of the cash flow, like I was saying earlier. And that's what this little blue line up here is kind of signifying. It's showing that you can sell that. Like, for example, I bought 120 payments. Then after the 121st payment, it reverts back to the borrower or back to the seller. And then say like another 3 years go by, and then they need a car, or they need to send their daughter off to college. Well, they can sell off the next however amount of payments that totals that amount plus a little bit more, and then that gets that cash flow coming into them. And then once again, it reverts back to them. Totally awesome, totally customizable, and I absolutely love these partials. So, and then there are different partial types where, in this particular example, I'm just going to strictly talk about the straight partial. You have a 50-50 partial. You can do a split. You can do 10 and 12, 10 and 12, the next 10 payments out of the 12 payments, or you can do a balloon partial on this, or you can do a reverse partial. They're all powerful, but what I have found, especially when talking to the seller of this note, and this just goes back to me, even when I was buying those 5 to 8 houses a month creatively. I would buy houses, 0% interest. I would just, you would think people would say no to this, but the more creative you get, a confused mind always says no. And so whenever I make an offer specifically to somebody that's with seller financing or owner financing, or like a mom and pop, that they're just, they don't do a lot of these. I always make a full price offer. And then I always, always, always try to find their need, their why, their itch that they need to be, that they're trying to scratch with, what they need that money for. And that's why like I say, I always make 2 offers to them. One is a full price offer, and one is a straight purchase, or I'm sorry, a straight partial. So let's go ahead and talk these numbers here. So this is an actual deal that I had accepted in Pennsylvania. Just to kind of give you a little backstory, he actually came to me. He had 10 deals that he was looking to sell. And then on this deal particularly, I offered him, it had an unpaid principal balance of 125,000. I offered him 93,000. And he just he just said that was too severe of a haircut for him. And so and I was trying to find out the why, what he needed the money for, and he just wouldn't, he wouldn't budge, he wouldn't tell me. And so what I did was and then I also offered him a partial of $30,000, or I'm sorry, $50,000. And then I made that offer. He came back and he said that the 93,000 was too much of a discount. And then we started talking, and he tells me he really needs $60,000. He had some debt or something that he needed to pay off. And I said, and like I said, he had 10 properties 10 notes that he was looking to sell. And so what I like to do is I like to diversify my risk, spread my risk out a little bit. So what I did is on this deal, and then on the next deal that you'll see, I actually gave him $30,000 for the next 35 payments. It had so I'm buying an unpaid principal balance of $32,939. I'm getting a 13.5% yield. I'm buying that for $30,609.74. Now you have to remember though that this is based off my net yield. So I'm factoring in this isn't gross, so the gross is much higher, right? So you're looking probably at about a 14.5, 14.75% yield if you just punch these numbers in right now. But what I do on my partials is I try to back into my numbers. So I account for my servicing costs, right? And then I'm also backing in my due diligence costs, my BPOs, my titles, my attorney costs. So I'm figuring in at least like $1,000 on this. So that's how I backed into that $30,609.74. And so the beauty part on this is, if say after I bought this and then 45 payments, or I'm on 35, right? And then say they made 35 or 36, 37, and then they're in the process of making the 40th. And then they decide, hey, I want to go ahead and refinance this. Well, I want to make sure that I recoup my initial investments, so that way I can at least plan for that, the due diligence and my attorney costs. So if they pay this off within like 30 days, I'm at least getting my money back out of it. But at least 30 days, in this particular example, I'm making 13.5%, right? So, and then the other deal is, this is another one, same gentleman. And like I said, he needed $60,000. So what I did is I split this up over 2 properties. And on this one, I made him a full price offer. Just that's just what I do. I made him an offer, said that was too steep of a discount, but the $30,000 coincided with the other 60 that he needed. So on this one, I am buying $33,126.63, 44 payments. I'm getting a 13.5% return on my money. I'm buying this for $30,432.98. And this is something that I didn't talk about previously. And the cool thing about it, if I go back to this one, the first deal that I was talking about, after the 35th payment goes by, the borrower still owes the seller $122,466.18, right? And so on this one, on deal number 2, after the 44th payment goes by, the borrower on this property still owes the seller $100,085.15. So that's why it's like that. I'm just saying that partials are amazing, just because they're giving the seller what, in this particular case, he needed $60,000 to pay for some debt. And then after 44 payments, it reverts back to him, and then he still has this outstanding balance of $100,000. And like I was saying, he can let a few years go by, and then he can decide to say, "Hey, I need another $15,000." And what I'm hoping is he'll come back to the well to drink, so to speak, in this particular case, since I've already purchased the first partial from him. So it's very powerful. And then this third deal, this is the one that I'm working with on my buddy. He actually owns a condo down in Florida. He initially asked for $100,000, just to borrow it. I I have a problem just loaning money out like that. Um, and talking to him, he said he needed $100,000, just because he said he was right now he's just cash poor. He just had all his money. He has a lot of things going on. He's working on another venture where that other venture was just taking up a lot of his money. And so he needed $100,000. And I didn't know that at the time because he wouldn't tell me that. That was another thing. I was trying to, get this out. So I made him a full price offer, and it just happened to come out $114,150. And then he gets on an unpaid principal balance, and this would be a newly originated note. I helped him to structure this note with an RMLO, setting it up. I told him that I'd like to see the first month to go by a 650 credit score, better than 10% down, originated by an RMLO. Let them make one payment on this, then I would buy that note, but I have to buy it at 114,000. And he said that was too much of a discount. He couldn't do it. And then he opened up to me a little bit more about the $100,000 that he needed. And so I structured this partial offer on this because it's a condo. You see he was going to originate this thing at 8.5%. I wanted a 15% return on my money just because it's a condo, and then Florida with taxes and homeowners association. It's just, condos are just, to me, they're more of a pain in the butt. So I just wanted a higher, return on my money. So I offered him $100,000 for an unpaid principal balance. So I'll be buying $139,285 for $100,000, $100,647.06. And that'll give me a 15% yield. But once again, this is my net yield. This isn't my gross yield. I'm factoring in my servicing costs, my due diligence, my attorney fees. And so when you back out all those numbers, you're going to come up with a 15% ROI, yield to maturity. And so, and this was once again another thing that I showed him. I was going to be buying 160 payments. So after the 160th payment, he'll still have an outstanding balance of $852.72. I'm still waiting for him to see if he's interested in this. And all three of these I'll be buying in the other two I purchased in my self-directed IRA. I'll be buying this one in my self-directed IRA as well if he gives me the green light. I did reach out to him. He hasn't gotten back with me because I know he's extremely busy with this other venture that he's got going on here in Cincinnati. So I'm still waiting. Hopefully he will get back with me, and this would be something that I would 100% move forward with, just because the investment, the value on this property was valued at $235,000, and for $139,000, my investment value is extremely low. And so, some of the documents that you definitely need within a partial, if you're going to do these partial, you need a purchase agreement. You need a Schedule A, a Schedule B, and a Schedule C. So the Schedule A is the borrower. That's what the borrower's amortization. The Schedule B is the investor's amortization, and the Schedule C is the remainder. It's A minus B equals C. And any good servicing company will help you with this. But what I did was I just took it one step further, and I just created an Excel document. And I have a bunch of macros in there. So you fill in the first page, and then it spits out the Schedule A, Schedule B, and then the Schedule C. So that way, when I don't have to, talk to my servicer to print this out and get all this information, I can just do it myself. It's real easy to do, and that way I can just have all these documents in front of the person that I'm making these offers to. And that's the other thing, when I make these offers, I have a condensed version of it, like the Schedule A, Schedule B, and then the remainder. And so that way the seller can see what they're getting when they actually sell this and then what it reverts back to them. But you do have to have a conversation with them to show them exactly and walk through the amortization schedule because you when you try to explain this, I mean, numbers are very, abstract, right? Unless you have this amortization schedule where you can actually physically walk them through it. And then, I mean, it doesn't lie. You just go over the line item and go, boom, this is what you're getting after this thing reverts back to you, so they can plainly see this. And I mean, very simple. The other thing you need are your assignment of mortgages and your allonges. Now, if it's a contract for deed, you're going to have to do a deed. It's going to have to do transfer the deed, or you're going to have to do and also do a seller's beneficial interest. That's an entirely different thing. I'm just strictly talking about mortgages on this. If I'm buying contract for deeds, I want to see a higher rate of return because my company name is on that contract for deed. And I love mortgages just because my name is off of it. And anytime that I do buy a contract for deed, and if it does, if I'm buying a non-performing contract for deed, if I can get that performing, I will convert that into a mortgage just because I want my name, my company name off of that. The other documents you need, BPOs, the appraisal, title, you need the collateral file. You need to look at your pay history, servicing notes, and the mortgage, and also the notes. And I am so surprised the amount of note investors that don't even look at the pay history or the servicing notes because that pay history and the servicing notes are gold because they will. I mean, it's just one that I bought in North Carolina or South Carolina. Sorry, the he's been trying to make payments. I bought it as a non-performing note. Looking at the servicing notes, going back, he's been trying to make payments on this thing, and I was able to get him, caught back up, converted it into a mortgage, and it's a performing note, and it's just amazing. You just please take the time and look at the pay history and the servicing notes because those servicing notes will tell you everything. You need a request for notice, and then also now the request for notice that's more like if you're selling a partial to another note investor because when things like I said things do go wrong and if something does happen you want to be notified if some if they're being foreclosed on or if something else is going on so that way you'll get a notification that something is going on with that asset and the assignment of a remainder. And this is just like both of these documents are just one-page documents. And the assignment of a remainder, all that is just, if they want to do another, partial, you just have that document already pre-signed, and then you can just do another partial with them. And then here is the question that I get often asked: what happens if the partial defaults or the partial pays off early? Well, if the seller basically what I do is in my contracts, in my purchase agreement contracts, I have if the partial defaults, I have the seller buy back that note from me minus whatever payments the borrower paid. Right. So on those examples, I bought 44 payments and then say 48 payments go by and then 49, 50, they just totally stop. So in my agreement, that borrower will buy back that payment, minus, the 40, like 44 or 45, 46, 47, 48 payments. And then they'll buy back that payment at that amount. Now, I do know other investors, they also have in their agreement that you just replace it with a note partial with equal return, or you can have within your document just foreclosure language where you can start the foreclosure, and then that's where you really need to have that conversation with the borrower or with the seller. If something like that happens, you need to let them know what you're thinking to see if they're on the same page with you before moving forward, because you just have to talk to people. You also can't bury your head in the sand when this happens, because it will. It's a numbers game. Something will always happen. And then what happens if the note pays off early? Well, unfortunately, you don't have the interest working for you any longer. And that's why I build in my minimum discounts on when I'm buying these notes. I always try to factor in my, my attorney fees and my BPOs and my titles. So that way, if I bought it 44 and then they paid it off 45, well, at least I made 1 month, a payment. Or if they did pay it like a couple days later, then at least I'm not out anything. At least I recoup my BPO and my attorney fees and my title costs. So that way I'm at least made whole. The worst I'm out is my time. Yeah, but I would much rather be out a little bit of time than a lot of money. And then here's a bonus section that I threw in. So some of the full price purchase that I did do, I purchased these in my self-directed IRA. Just to kind of give you a little story on this. This was from another note investor. He was looking to liquidate these low-hanging fruit, low tail end notes, so to speak, and so he just wanted to be done with it, and he was motivated. And I got these, as you can see, I got these at a really good rate. But I had to buy the one that you see the line through. I had to buy that one with the two good ones, and that one was they hadn't paid, and I think it was like a year or two, and I looked up that property, and I mean, it was just a dog. I mean, there was nothing to be done with it. I mean, it was horrible. Um, the saving graces with these were all mortgages, and I just signed a satisfaction release on the Pittsburgh one, and I could have spent money going after, but I think with that one I would have just been throwing away money, and I just figured it's just not worth it. I bought it, like I said, within my self-directed IRA. I bought that one for 100, and then the other two, I purchased an unpaid principal balance of 18,000, had 121 payments, and this was a couple years ago, right? So with a 7.6% interest rate, 220 PI payments, I purchased that for $6,500. I'm getting a yield of 38.87%, and that is my net yield. And the one there in Kansas, $15,005 unpaid principal balance. That one only had 53 payments left, 53.54 or 45. Interest rate 8%. Had a principal and interest payment of $334. I purchased that one for $6,400, and I am getting a 50.93% yield. Now, does that happen a lot? Absolutely not. This was just one of these things, right place, right time, and and that's the thing. You see a lot of investors, just not note investors, but real estate investors. They talk about the high yields and all this other stuff, and it doesn't happen all that often. So I just want to make sure that this isn't typical. This is just, like I said, right place, right time with these particular assets. And I just want to make sure that you guys realize that these are doable, but it's like one of those things where, you hit a home run. My main goal is just, getting a double or a single. Just get on base, get on base, get on base, and get on base. If I can get to 13.5%, 14, 15%, to me, I'm just getting on base. I'm getting on base. I just like a nice, consistent stream of income coming in, right? And occasionally you will hit that home run. You will hit that grand slam. In this particular case, on these two, it's a home run for me. Let me see here. And then what I did on the other webinar. So in closing, I love this quote from Albert Einstein. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays it. Very powerful. That's why I am chasing amortization. I'm no longer chasing depreciation. I just love the power of compound interest. That's all I've got. I don't know if you guys have any questions or anything.
Well, I do. I don't, Dr. Ivan, give me a little bit of time, and you may have something. But Larry, great presentation.
Thanks, Ronnie.
I've always had an interest in partials. I haven't been able to participate in any yet, but I do see the potential there. When you purchase a partial, say for instance, you go into it, you're buying 60 payments. At the end of that term, say for instance, you're out of the country vacationing. Does the servicing cover the transition for you, or do you have to call and make sure that everything's going the way it should?
Yeah. You typically, I have all of that set up with my servicing company, and then I also have my attorney in the loop as well. So that way they keep track of everything. So if something happens, and if I was out of the country, all those documents are signed. My attorney has them, and so that way, if I'm out, you know, in Bermuda, you know, and like 45th payment comes in, he's got the documents, they'll execute it, and they'll just assign it back to them.
And my last question will be, when you're trying to calculate your yield, does usury come up in that portion? Do you have to be concerned with that? No.
Okay. No, I don't, just because I'm not. That's where with the usury laws, and each state has their own, right? So you have to be careful. That's why when you're constructing, and I think if I remember correctly, I think oh my God, I forget the name, and you can, and I'll find this and I'll post it. You can actually search it. It's usually, I think it's like 6.5 basis point above what the going rate is what they consider predatory, non-predatory loans, right? So just always do your when you're originating them. That's why I don't like when people like just automatically want to making a percent or originating at like say 14% and buying your yield at say 15%, two separate things. Because you know, if that interest rate is like say 9%, and if you're wanting a 15% return on the money, two totally separate things, because that 8% is fixed. It's never going to change unless you do a loan modification. And that's why I'm always on people, and I'm a strong advocate on not charging a high interest rate. That's why I always talk to people, especially with originating new loans, talk to an RMLO, because they are going to keep you 100% straight with making sure that you're not going over those usury laws for that particular state. Because, you know, it's, I mean, I see people with 14-15% on these loans, and I'm like, I don't know about that. I would feel more comfortable, because right now it's like 7-8%. If you do a point or two above that, yeah, I think that's fine. But when you're starting to go 14-15%, in my personal opinion, I think that's predatory. That's just me. Other people may have a total, you know, opinion on that.
I think, Larry, it depends on each state. I know there are certain states that have a certain limit.
Right.
Like in Georgia, I believe it's 16%. And I think 60% is a usury in almost any state, except, I don't know. From what I've heard, the states I've been dealing with, usury is 16%.
Yeah, and that's why with my yield, I mean, you know, I'm not originating them, right? Yeah, so I just want my whatever my yield is. So and I have different yields based on different things, like mobile homes with land. I don't buy mobile homes that's attached to lease land. I will never even look at those. I just want mobile home with land, so that way if something happens, I can get that thing back. And that, so whatever my yield is, that's what I want to make. And if an RMLO originated that loan at 8% and I want it 15%, then they're going to have to take a discount on that loan if they want to sell it.
So Dr. Ivan had asked if you could show your spreadsheet that you talked about.
Oh, share the, I'd still, oh man.
Like if you could just show it on the screen.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me see if I can. Give me a second. Now I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me a sec. I gotta log in here. That I was not prepared for. go to my drive. I think this is it right here. Okay. Yeah. How do I share?
Yeah, you should be able to. I'll remove the presentation, I guess. But you should be able to, like with the present before and share the tab in Google Drive, right?
Oh, share screen.
Yeah, under share screen, and it'll should give you that Google Drive tab.
Okay. There we go. Oh, wait a minute. It's asking me for permissions. I don't have any of this set up.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Can you?
There we go.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, looks.
Can you see?
We got us. Okay. Yeah. So
That opens.
you need to maybe select a different tab to share.
Oh, which one is it sharing?
So you shared the whole window.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I thought it did the entire screen.
Yeah. No,
Sorry.
you should be able to, because it's Google, you should be able to open up the spreadsheet in a tab and share that.
Oh, wait a minute. It's a Google sheet though.
Yeah. The Google sheet. Yeah. So just make sure that's open, and then do the share screen, and it should give you one of the options there.
Oh, okay. Give me a second. Let me pull this over. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I just had it in a tab. Give me a second. I'll go here. Let me go present, share screen. Oh, here we go. Now you guys should see that.
Ta-da.
Yep.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Awesome.
Got it.
All right. So please, I'm still working on this. It's busted, and I've been making changes and things like that. So what I'm trying to do is like fair market value, existing note, and like the yields that people want, and based off of whether it's a new seller finance note or existing note, you're able to select the different ones, and then it changes the values down here, right? Yeah, see up here, I think it's like this 114. Like if you watched that, I think that changed. You had like 113. So this is just kind of giving you like what you think you should offer and things like that on a partial versus a full purchase, and then this is like what I was talking about, like the Schedule A versus the Schedule B versus, and this is an entirely different situation, thing that you need to consider too. When you're selling these things, do you use the note rate or the yield rate? Because they both come in, and one is more conducive on when you're selling, and one is more conducive when you're buying, and so that's why I have that up here. And I'm trying to, and with being an ex-developer, software developer, I'm still trying to figure out how I want to properly lay this out. I was even thinking of toying with actually creating an actual program to do this. Now, I wouldn't write it. I would oversee it, right? Just because I don't want to do that. So you have, this is what the borrower. So this is what I was talking about, like with Rob. Oh, yeah, it was like 215,000, 10%, 193. So this is what the borrower would see. And then, this is like the investment. So say, the seller needs $100,000. I need to buy 148 payments on here. So what's really cool about this is if he comes down here, it actually highlights this. So if you come up and say they only needed $60,000, right? So this is going to say 57 payments. So this will come up and highlight 57, right? And then Schedule C, and it takes all those numbers over in 57, and it shows you like what's still owed to the borrower. Hopefully that makes sense. So, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to lay this out in a way that's one, conducive for me, that makes it easy for me, just throwing in a couple of numbers, and two, when I'm talking with like my buddy, or if I'm talking to somebody that has a note that they're looking to sell, or that they're open to a partial, that I can show them this information, and we can actually walk through the numbers. And another thing, another thing that you could do is if you don't have an Excel document, I use this 10 BII. And here, let me just do this. So let's do 360, 10%, $100,000. So the payment is $877.57. And what you can do is, you can just have the conversation with the borrower, or I'm sorry, with the seller, and just walk through the payments. And all you need to do is just, you have to figure out the note rate or the yield rate that you're buying your partial at, and then just plug these numbers in, look at the amortization, and just walk through them and just subtract them. And that way you can just get they can get a clear idea on what you're looking to do and how it's going to benefit them, if that makes sense. Did that make sense?
Gotcha.
Yeah, it did.
Awesome.
Larry, with just like with performing notes, there are certain states that investors want to shy away from. Are there any particular states that you kind of shy away from with buying partials?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. No, I think in these particular cases, they were just Pennsylvania and Florida, and I buy in those states, and I know a lot of investors, avoid Allegheny County and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I buy there all the time, and but it's just like the usual suspects. I would say New York, New Jersey, Cook County, Illinois. I do buy in California. Love California. It's high, but if I can still get a pretty good rate, my yield at a pretty good price, I'll buy in that all day long. I do not buy in Kentucky because you have to be licensed and bonded to buy there, and it's like $1 million bond and licensing, and it's a headache in order to do it. In Georgia right now, I do buy in Georgia only out of my self-directed IRA.
Okay.
But it's even with New York, New Jersey, if it's a solid pay history, and if I can get my investment to value low enough, I may do it.
What about Philadelphia?
Yeah, 100% I will. But for
Really?
a full price purchase, absolutely not.
All right. So you're willing to buy seconds in Philadelphia?
Oh, seconds? No, I only buy first mortgages.
Okay, first. Okay, all right.
Yeah, these are. I'm sorry. I only do first mortgages. I never buy second mortgages.
Okay. So no, I don't know why I came up with seconds. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Senior moment. So in Philadelphia, looking for a credit score of about what? 620?
650.
650. All right.
650.
Well, okay. Because I come across notes in Philadelphia, seller finance notes, but the creditor's credit score is lower than 620. So it is kind of a C class note, but it's in working class neighborhoods where they had good pay history.
Well, that's the other thing. If they have a strong pay history, I look at equity. I want to see the equity there, and then I look at the credit score. But more specifically, if they have strong pay history, that I lean more on that than the credit score. But a newly originated note, right? You got to go by what the RMLO is telling you, 650, 10%, and you look at their debt to income ratio and make sure everything is solid. And only one payment's gone by, but I'm hoping that with a 650 or a better credit score, that they're going to continue on making their payments. But that's the thing, that's life happens. You have life events happen, and that's where, like I said, I have one note, actually two notes right now. That one is here in Cincinnati. Unfortunately, I've got to foreclose on her. I mean, she just 100% buried her head in the sand, not returning my servicing servicer's call, didn't return my call. I stopped by the property, and it's unfortunate, and like I said, it kills me each and every time.
Mhm.
Maybe that's what happened.
And Ronnie, and that was the thing, right? And I just don't get why people just don't talk to the bank or talk to somebody, because I'm totally, it's like, I get it. I went through that. I had 10 properties that went through foreclosure. I know what it feels like. It sucks. It's horrible. And if she would just call me and she would say, Larry, I lost my job. Something happened. I can't make these payments, or but I'm back on my feet. I've got something in the works. I would say that's fine. Let's work it out. Let's do a loan modification. Let's get you back on track. Let's not foreclose against you. But it's like when they just bury their heads in the sand. I mean, maybe the foreclosure, the notice of demand, the demand notice is just like that shot across the bow for them. Like, wow, this guy's serious. And like I said, it's like when I talked about earlier in these presentations, you hear this. It's nothing personal. It's business. It is personal because it's a family. It's a person, and it kills me. It's like, with my 10 properties, they were all investment properties, right? All 10 of them went to foreclosure. And, but I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
100%. And I couldn't even imagine losing my home.
Yeah. It's like when I wrote the example I used with my note I created, it was on a mobile home. It was a 3-year note. And first 2 years, payment went smoothly. At the third year, something happened, and we already had an agreement. We were able to keep the person in the house.
Yep.
And the payments to 5 years. But like, again, I didn't want to be a homeowner, me living in Florida, him in
Yep.
Texas. So
yeah, that's good that you're able to do that. And I've got another lady where it's just, she says, oh, I'm going to make a payment. And I mean, I've honestly tried to work it out with her. I mean, it is just, I mean, if you see the emails string between myself and my servicer, I mean, I literally bent over backwards, and she still chooses. And I'm like, unfortunately, I've got to foreclose.
yeah. I posted a horror story for you.
What's that?
I posted a horror story for you.
Oh, I'm afraid to read it.
Man dodges eviction for 20 years by living in a foreclosed home. Hadn't made a payment in 22 years.
Oh my God, I'm not. Yeah, this is the unfortunate part of this business, right? Is just having to do this. But and that's the thing that partials, things will go. If people think that partials are like the end all be all, they're not. Things will go sideways, and when they do, you just have to make sure you have that language, or your investment to value is low enough to where if you do, I mean, even if I'm just made whole, I'm fine, right?
It all goes back to when you invest, you're factoring in your profit in the beginning, so you put in all your cushions.
Yep.
Just in case.
Yep. Yeah, it's I was honestly surprised. I mean, because it was like clockwork. Payment, and then nothing, and it's unfortunate, but it does happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, great information, Larry. I'm definitely interested in partials because, again, I can get in with a little amount of cash sometimes, and that's where I'm working. I'm not to the level you are yet. So,
well, hey, Rodney, I'm telling you, it's what's really great. Not only with partials, but with full purchase. Like if you did want to broker, and this is where I see a lot of note brokers go wrong. They're trying to go from apples to apples and not apples to oranges. And when I say apples to apples, it's like note investor to note investor, apple to apple. as opposed from apple to orange, where it's like a note investor to somebody with a self-directed IRA.
Yeah.
They need to be pitching those properties to them, and these partials and full purchase are really great. I mean, I had the chance. I mean, I had a couple real self-directed IRA owners when I gave this original webinar the last month. They reached out to me and they said, "Hey, I want these in my self-directed IRA." I said, "Well, I'm already in the process of buying them, but if I have something, I could that meets what you're looking for. I have no problems, sending it over to you, and just arbitraging the deal and making like in this particular case, I could have easily made like $4,500 off of both deals, giving it to them. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, and that's why I'm just saying, I would not try to do apples to apples, note investor to note investor, trying to broker. I would do apples to oranges, note investor to a self-directed IRA owner, somebody who's looking for something, passively. But when things do go wrong, you need to be there to help that person set things right. And that's why, they're relying on you for your due diligence. And that's why I'm like a huge proponent on like due diligence, looking over everything, scrutinizing it, looking at it like, okay, is this going to be a deal that I want to do, that I would feel, comfortable sending it over to somebody? And that's like another thing. Like if you were going to like arbitrage a deal, I would only recommend arbitraging like mortgages, not contract for deeds.
Oh yeah.
So why is that?
Just because the contract for deeds, your name is on the property, and so your company name is on the property, or your self-directed IRA is on the company, right? And so anything that goes with that property, like the water, the grass, the violations, everything, you're on the hook for. Demolition. If that house needs to be demolished, the city will come after you. Because I've had that happen to me. Yep. That's why I'm just, if you're going to broker, now I'm comfortable with contract for deeds. I'm just saying, like, if you're trying to broker something, I would not broker a contract for deed. I would only broker like a strong mortgage in one of those other states that, either like a judicial or non-judicial with a shorter time frame for foreclosing in case things do go sideways. And when they do, you be there to help them, walk them through everything. I feel like I'm preaching, and that's not what I'm trying to do.
You're teaching.
No,
Larry.
you're not preaching. No, you're not preaching. No. It's interesting. Like you said, a lower cost to entry, and you actually went to the person's need where he actually didn't need to sell the whole note.
Yeah.
And at the end, he still gets, payments. And the only thing that would make it a bit complicated if the borrower defaulted. Now you're borrowing the first half, say 306, let's say 100 payments just for argument's sake, and then you went through the scenario, but it's something that we have to get wrap our brains around it.
Right. Yeah, and that's like it's with any of this, right? If they stop, then yeah, that's why I have in my contracts where now, fortunately, I haven't had to test that yet, right? I'm not going to, thank God. But in my contract, I have the verbiage that says if they do default, they'll buy that back at the like the Schedule B's rate minus whatever payments they've made. So that way I should be made whole. But if they do default, will they pay me? That's the question. And that's where, if they don't, then it's kind of like, okay, what are your next steps? Next steps are to talk to an attorney. So, it's investing, it's not guaranteed.
That's fabulous. I'm just trying to post. I just posted Dr. Ivan's website in the chat, yours, Larry, and I'm just trying to pull up Rodney's here to share. So actually, why I'm doing that, maybe Dr. Ivan, maybe you can introduce yourself and what you're doing with mortgage notes.
Okay, I'm Dr. Ivan Trevor. I'm the note doctor. We have mortgage notes in Georgia and in Arkansas, and we are paying anywhere between 8 and 12%, depending on how we underwrite the loan. Basically on mobile homes, and what we're doing is a kind of a social experiment where we're helping these people get into homes and not them have to live in apartments.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Rodney, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Rodney Madison with the Note Experience. I need to update some information because I finally had some movement. I had a note in Georgia that sold, and I had a note in Ocala, Florida that is paid off early.
Nice.
So I have some capital that I need to reinvest, get it back working. And things are just moving. So I'm glad about my activity. I gotta get to an upscale so I can be like Dr. Ivan and Larry here. I want to up my game.
We all want to be where Larry is. That's all.
Oh,
Well, I don't know about that, but hey, congratulations, Rodney, on the payoffs, man. That's awesome.
Well, it was a journey.
Yeah.
It was paying good for 2 years. Then it dropped off for half of a year, and then I got a notice that they wanted to pay it off, and like yes,
it's
all
always,
the late fees and missed payments. So
that's very
great,
good.
man.
That's very good. Yep.
yeah.
See, that's what I'm thinking. I'm going to see if I can just offer some type of discount and see if they can just come into some money. Just like I'm done.
Yeah,
That's great, man.
So, but that's all. I'm just looking for notes in all over the country. There are certain states, of course, that I want to stay away from, but I like you, Larry. I'll listen and look at every deal I could I have available to me. So we'll see what I can actually get into. And that's it.
Okay. Well, this has been a fabulous discussion, and it's a complex subject, but you presented it very clearly and completely, Larry.
Oh, thanks.
And even
I felt like I rushed through it though, so if I did, I apologize.
Yeah, well, people can go back and watch it again, and maybe slow down the video if it's too fast.
No, I thought it was fun, Larry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Kim Wells Phillips and her co-presenter, they were doing something, and they said, "We're both from New Jersey. We speak really fast." Says, "We're not slowing down. You're going to have to watch the replay and slow down the video."
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Larry and Rodney, for joining, and great questions as always, and it's really good. It's good fun. So
Thanks,
I guess.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Larry, and everything. That's perfect. And yeah, well, thanks for coming on a Saturday. Are you going out for a run again later today, or have you done your run, Larry?
I did it in the morning. I did 6 miles, and it was like 8:30. It was 90 degrees. It was hot.
Yeah.
Really hot. I thought, I go running with Willow. We have a dog, and I thought she was going to pass out on me there for a little bit.
Yeah. I've been getting out and walking more. Maybe I'll work up to running too. Okay. Anyway, well, happy Saturday, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
All right.
See you guys.
See ya. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.